tweeting.
All right, I'm getting ready to put up on my page.
It's already up. My lighting is off.
So we are live there.
My whole situation is off. Ugh.
And so we're live and we will be, I want to share this a couple places. Hey, Miss Vanessa.
Hey, Miss Mary, how are you?
Doing good. Trying to share this to our page and to our group so we can get started with our election day coverage. You can listen to some celebration music.
I don't know about YMCA though. I said "Got to Give It Up" by Marvin Gaye.
Celebration, Cool in the Game.
Oh, now we're talking.
Oh, let's see what they play next. Okay, Alexa, play Celebration by Kool in the Gang.
Here's Celebration by Kool in the Gang.
Woohoo!
Hey, Vanessa.
Hey, honey. I like the hair.
You like my hair? I bought this.
You bought I love it. Wherever you bought it from, go back and get some more. I love it. I'm gonna go get me some hair too, Jamie. I'm gonna buy me some hair.
I get some.
I hope you like that. If you're not sure what to play next, I can recommend some music.
Thank you,
Would you like
Alexa.
to get started?
Off. Well, Alexa brought us in, so that's good. Welcome to tonight's election coverage. This is Blue Wave Conversation, and I'm Mary Hayes, Vanessa Maddox, Jamie Nedick, Krysta Jones, and Kimberly Newman is in the house today. All right, so I just wanted to make a couple announcements because we're going to dive right in because I know there's some news that we were talking about in text messaging, so we're going to kind of dive into that. But I want Krysta to kind of share with us what she and her crew was doing. Vanessa and I was working with that particular group, getting some things done and trying to help as much as we could. But I want to share because they really worked hard in Virginia, not only this election, but elections prior. And I just wanted her to share a little bit. But before she does, everybody, I want you to know, and you've heard me say this before, that this group is going to be around past this election, okay? We're going to go through a name change, and you will see that posted up tomorrow. So please make sure when you see the name change that you'll know that this is the same group. I'm going to leave the pictures and everything up there the way it is until y'all get used to it. But as of tomorrow, or as of midnight tonight, we'll be known as the Suburban Women for Democracy. That is what we're going to be known as, Suburban Women for Democracy. And we are going to be able to hold our elected officials accountable, no matter who's in office, from the high president office to our local assemblies, our state, our school boards, everything. So just wanted you to know that as well, okay? So that was my, that was one of the big news for the night. So Krysta, if you are ready, we would love for you, I think you're unmuted, right? Yes. So if you would go ahead and introduce yourself and share what you do with the group, because next go around, we would love to work even closer with you all than what we tried to do this time.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for giving me an opportunity just to talk for a few minutes about the NOVA Coalition and the National Coalition on Black Civic Participation. We, in Northern Virginia, we started a coalition in 2008. It was actually August of 2008, around that presidential election, to organize a lot of the Greek organizations, the civic organizations, mainly African-American organizations, churches, to start to do voter outreach, because we recognized that there was a need to do it in that year in particular. And we had a great turnout, and we just like, I'm so glad to hear you all are saying that you're going to focus on accountability, in between elections and what happens after this, because we actually did that. So we count as one of our successes the felon enfranchisement. As you all know, as anyone who's been following that particular issue, years, Virginia used to be last on almost every list possible. But that was one where we were definitely kind of castigated across the nation because of the voter suppression of formerly incarcerated people. So that is one of the issues that we took up back in, I think, 2010. We wrote op-eds, we did workshops to help people after they got out of jail to get their rights back. And you guys probably remember with Terry McAuliffe, he signed a lot of those because that's all he could do within Virginia law. He allowed a lot of those people who were formerly convicted to vote. So that is just one example of the work that we have done throughout the years, in addition to voter registration, voter education. But, a really important part of the work that the National Coalition on Black Civic Participation does, led by Melanie Campbell, who is an amazing woman. There actually is a Washington Post article about her. I think it came out today. I'd love to share it with you all, is the idea of capacity building. So something that really so I run an organization called Vote Lead Impact. We train African Americans to run for office. We started in Virginia. We used to be Virginia Leadership Institute, and now we're slowly and strategically working across the nation. But one of the things that really just I was reminded of today as I was out working is the need for capacity building. There's a lot of knowledge, I feel, that's gained from campaigns. And a lot of us who have worked in campaigns have learned those skills and been able to use them in other arenas, whether it be nonpartisan or partisan. And I really think that more of our communities, all of our communities, need those skills, because when it comes to days like today, we all have to be on the same page. I am so excited that the people who are now in the Nova Coalition did a great job. They knew what to do. They knew how to drop lit. They knew how to text. They knew how to do everything. And so we need more people who are able to do that. And you can't wait until the days before Election Day to teach that. So one thing that I hope that your group focuses on, as you are holding your elected officials accountable, is also just that training and capacity building and networking and knowing your community. So with Vote Lead Impact, as we train people to run for office, one of the things that I always say to people is, before you run, it's okay if you don't have a lot of experience. I know we have a new wave of activists who want to run and they'll do great work. But one thing you do need to know your community. You need to know everything from the geography and the precincts to the people, to the issues. So as we even work and I don't think you guys are nonpartisan, but whatever kind of work that we do, we need to know those things. So when it comes to Election Day, all the pieces can come together, the strategy can come together. So that's just a little about the coalition and the work that we've been doing over the years.
Awesome. It sounds like really great work that you've done and that you continue to do. And I hope that this is the start of us being able to together, particularly as we may find some people even in our group that's interested in running. Because like I told you earlier today, we have people in other states, and I've already put out some feelers, and we do have some people within our group that's interested in running for office. Although they might not be in Virginia, your expertise might help us be able to help them in the states that they're in. So I know that's a strong passion Vanessa and I are going to be working on, moving forward. So I want to thank you for the brief time that you are here, because I want to respect that you are busy, because we were working with you today, and I know I was trying to get you a couple of times and your phone was busy, but I just want to thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to be with us here today.
Thank you, and thank you for the work that you're doing. Keep it up.
So Krysta, can you please give us your website address?
Yes.
And I'll be contacting you after the election to talk about the PAC that I am starting, okay?
Awesome. I'm on my phone, so if I could go on Facebook and put it, is that okay? When I log on?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Have a good night.
All right.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
All right, so we are at 6:16. What's another good celebration song? What's a good celebration song, people?
I think we should talk a little bit about this pack idea because
No,
I've been.
I'm asking for a reason.
Oh, what about that? Na goodbye. Because
Okay.
I'm hoping he goes. I'm hoping we get to at the end of this evening at some point or the next few days, get to say on behalf of the real Suburban Housewives to Donald.
Right.
Ship out.
Exactly.
Phil.
So look, we want to talk about, go ahead, because y'all started that conversation. I was kind of in the middle of doing some canvassing and stuff like that with my kids. So I glazed across what was going on. So you guys go ahead and do that, and I'll jump in a little later once I get the gist, because I'm reading through the text now.
That would be Jamie and Vanessa.
Well, Vanessa, I was thinking about your pack idea because I was totally fascinated about that. Because
our pack idea?
Yeah, both you plural. You plural.
She just took it and ran with it. I named it first, and then she took it.
Mary and Vanessa's pack idea.
Idea.
Because
What did you name it? I missed that. What did you name it?
I think she named it Marnessa pack.
It was originally Mary's pack, and then
or Van Mary pack. But what I loved about this is, I'm thinking through this and your idea, which I just think is brilliant. And, one of the things we were talking about when we were talking with Ms. With the candidate who was Ms. Lake Jones, who was running against Mike Pence's brother in Indiana. And just the scale of money, I think, is something that we need to have an honest conversation about. Because, coming up with $1 million, if you're running in Loudoun County, Virginia, that's not honestly a real heavy lift. Now, if you're in a rural community, it's much more difficult where there's less money to come up with that $1 million to get that endorsement from somebody like Emily's list. Mm-hmm. It just is. And the GOP is very good at identifying these rural right communities and sort of just getting in there and staying entrenched, when really the Democrats would much better represent the interests of these working communities. And so I think that we're leaving them out in the cold when really we would be much better positioned to represent their interests of working people who need to have healthcare and affordable education and all the things that we're trying to offer. And frankly, when we get to Congress, a vote from Loudoun County is one vote versus that vote from that Muncie, Indiana is still one vote. And we're paying a lot more to invest in and get that vote from Loudoun. When in some ways it would be a smart, I went to business school, and in some ways it might be a smarter investment to be looking at these races that may cost less money to win.
So let me tell you how this started and progressed. So Mary and I were having a conversation about creating a PAC, and then 2 nights ago, my days are running together, so I'm not even sure, but it was either last night or night before, after Mary told me that she noticed that Emily's list was requiring $1 million buy-in to get their support. I was pissed about that, because I was one of those women that ran for office, and I was told that I needed an exorbitant amount of money for a local race. I was told I needed $10,000 minimum. And this was by a strategist, okay? Now, I did not have 10,000, I did not have 5,000, I did not have 3,000. I had $2,500 total, and we won with $2,500. So don't tell me that it can't be done. Now, I was having a conversation with someone else last night or the night before, and I started getting pissed off all over again. And I said, I think it's a travesty that all of these women, and I was thinking about the young lady out in Muncie, Indiana, who's running against Pence's brother.
Oh, Jenny Lee? Jenny Lee?
Yes.
Jenny Lee Lake, right?
Janine Lee Lake, okay? Yeah. And whoever I was talking to, I said, well, this is ridiculous. We're not going to put up with this. There are plenty of organizations that teach women how to run for office and then helps them get the raise the funds that they need. And I said, I don't give a crap about Emily's list. We're going to start a PAC and we're going to call it the $10 PAC.
$10 pack.
It's symbolism. $10 means with that it's not going to cost me $1 million to buy into an organization that doesn't care about me unless I have $1 million. That's ridiculous. That sounds like something Donald Trump would do.
Or did.
Okay. So I went and bought the URL the other night. And we are going to start $10pack.com. And we're going to start focusing on training and fundraising. And anyone that is a subject matter expert in learning and development / training and a subject matter expert in fundraising, come on over to $10pack.com and you can work with us. But we are going to help the everyday woman, the women that know how much a gallon of milk costs, right, and how much it costs to send their kids to daycare as a single parent, and how much it costs to feed 2 6'2" teenagers.
I got 3 of those, and the answer is every penny you have.
Right.
Every single penny. And I'm a college educated, resourceful, accomplished person, and I'm struggling. So imagine women. Oh, thank you, girl. Thank you, honey. And so imagine women that have less than me in that regard. Those are the ones we have to target. Janine Lee Lake is going to be running an uphill battle to beat Big Money Pants Pence. And I just wish we had met her months earlier, because we could have definitely got behind her and women like her. So that's what $10 PAC is going to be about.
That's what it's about.
And by the way, it doesn't have to be a super PAC either. We're going to do an Obama and get our money by small donations from individuals.
Well, I got my glass of wine out because I wanted to have a toast, because I was thinking about your idea when you told me about it. And I just think it is so incredibly fabulous. So I wanted to have a toast to Mary and Vanessa's amazing $10 idea, because I think that is how we could change the way that we're running politics and get more women.
You don't have a glass.
I think this.
No.
I think this is how we get more women, especially women of color, into the Congress and start making the Congress look like the country, and the SCOTUS eventually look like the country. And just my favorite quote, is when there are 9.
When there are 9. I'm putting that in the chat.
All right, ladies. Tara Palin said sign her up. Getting a lot of love this. Christy said, love this idea, Vanessa. You all are so inspiring. Krysta put her information in there. So they're loving the Beatles. Okay. They're loving the idea. So
it means ladies have to run, though.
And let me just reiterate.
Looking at Mary.
Let me just reiterate here. Mary bought me this information, and I jumped off the cliff with it. All right.
She did.
So we are in this together, and we're just going to do it.
We're going to do it.
Yeah.
There's a hole and it needs to be filled.
Yes, it
And
does.
we're gonna do it.
A lot of holes that need to be filled.
We're gonna do
Lot
it.
of them.
And it's gonna be great. You know why?
Bye.
We are doing it.
My
Women
cup.
are doing it. So we're gonna show them how it's done. Right,
And
ladies?
I-
If you guys are
and I-
watching and you're with us, give us some likes and hearts. Like this.
And I do absolutely agree with Krysta Jones in terms of capacity building is needed.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. And I don't know if you saw the post that I put up the other day, Vanessa. Remember I told you it was going to come up on Monday? Because we had that conversation, I think it was Sunday. And I said I had already thought about helping women that were running for office or might even think about running for office. If we have them within our group, why can't we help the women in our group? Just like Janine was in our group. Didn't even know she was here. Had we known she was here, it would have been a whole nother situation. The level of help that we would have been able to give her, not that she wasn't getting the help that she wanted, but to know that we're the type of people, and this group is a type that would support one another the way that they have been, it could have been a whole nother situation. So if you are out there and you're thinking about running for some type of office, particularly during mid-elections or even something in your community, or you might have an issue in your state or community where you need petition signed, you know, you can, anything that you could do virtually, you could do with us. We're a virtual group, and that's how we're building. We're building virtually. We're not building in brick and mortar. And the best part about building virtually is we can be anywhere. Just like we ran, you know, and helped out with campaigns, we didn't have to build our campaign to run. We didn't have to reinvent the wheel. We just helped everybody else. We helped everybody else. And that's the problem, because there was a lot of groups out there that I was told that they didn't want to work together. Well, why would you want to reinvent the wheel? So we're out here and we're willing to work with other people as long as we can work together. Okay? We're not going to work with just anybody, but we.
Well, Mary, I
So-
think, I'm sorry, Vanessa, go ahead.
So I'm sorry, Jamie, there's a famous quote, I think it's by Zig Ziglar, and it goes something like, if you help enough people get what they want, you will automatically get what you want. That's one of my favorite quotes, and it applies here and it applies in life in general. There's another quote by one of my favorites, Gary Vaynerchuk. And he's this crazy guy that's really big on the internet. He's a serial entrepreneur. And one of his big dreams, Mary, is to own the New York Jets.
Ooh.
And I've been following him for years, and he's a multi-millionaire, and he still cannot afford to buy the New York Jets. So he has a saying.
Why they're not winning? No, I'm just kidding.
He has a
Yeah, it's
saying.
not like they're the Steelers.
He has a quote that goes, give, ask. Give 10 times, and then you can ask. And then give, and then keep giving. So if you can adopt that, the sky is the limit. Blessings will flow like you would never believe. And I am a human testament to that. So we just have to keep it going.
We have to keep it going. And speaking about keeping it going, that conversation that y'all were having online on, where is it? I'm trying to see if I can find it now. It's gone. Oh no, yes, about the ballots. Do you want to talk about that right now?
Which one?
The one where
The last conversation we were having.
the one lady where the lady says she went to the polls and they ran out of ballots.
Yeah,
Yeah, this happened in where I'm from. I am very, Joe Biden is from Scranton, and not far from Scranton, Pennsylvania is where I grew up. I'm a proud graduate of Shikellamy High School, Shikellamy High School. I went to Shikellamy High School, which is located in Sunbury, Pennsylvania.
Sunbury.
Sunbury, Pennsylvania. And our claim to fame is a few weeks ago, we were Tosh.0's shithole of the week. I kid you not. That aside, we have a voting place at East End Fire Company, which is located on Catawissa Avenue in Sunbury, Pennsylvania. And people were actually turned away from the polls because they ran out of ballots. So you want to talk about voter disenfranchisement? They were turned away because there weren't ballots. They weren't told when to come back. They weren't told that they were going to definitely get more ballots. They weren't told to wait until they did go get more ballots. Now, more ballots have arrived eventually. We were able to officially report this. We did, we pulled out the stops. They did reach out for help. But imagine you arrive at your polling place and the poll workers told people that they had 700 registered voters in this area and received 200 ballots, and people actually left without voting. The friend of a friend of mine who was there, who I spoke with, did go back and was able to vote, but we at this point don't know how many people left without being able to vote in this election. Just imagine that you go to your polling place and you're told, we don't have any ballots, you have to leave. They weren't offered provisional ballots. There were no ballots at all. Again, this happened at the East End Fire Company, which is a polling place in Sunbury, Pennsylvania, which is where I'm very, very proud to grow up. Very hardworking community, really great people there for the most part. I won't tell you what got us on Tosh.0's shithole of the week, but my parents both went to Shikellamy High School too. I have nothing but great things to say about the community. And so it's obviously really infuriating to me that, people I went to high school with showed up to do their civic duty and vote and were turned away. And I actually was able to reach out to Atiba, who's now on the call, to sort of see what can we do about this when you're getting turned away from the poll, when you show up and stand in a long line to vote and they tell you that there are no ballots.
Let me just say, I can assure you, if it happened in your town in Pennsylvania, it has happened in multiple cities across the US.
Mhm.
We just haven't heard about it.
And what's surprising to me that even happened is because when I early voted and I went to the same polling place Vanessa and Jamie went to, they printed out my ballot on a printer. So the fact that they ran out of ballots, I don't know if they're not printing ballots right now or what, but.
Well, I will say the average income in Sunbury, according to bestplaces.net, is $17,270,000 a year. I mean, $17,270 a year. It is an area that is does not have a lot of, they have really, really, really hardworking people, but that's significantly lower than the average in the U.S., which is $53,000 a year or 54. So, when you're dealing with people whose average income is $17,000 versus the rest of the country who make $54,000 a year from the same survey, it's really easy to disenfranchise people who are not living in the richest county in the country. But these are good people who are working their butts off. They get to vote.
Speaking of voting, we're going to pause because Atiba is here, and I want Kimberly to go ahead and lead us in this conversation because it happened from a post that was put up on Facebook, and there were some really strong and good feedback from that, so much so that I wanted him to come on and really discuss this from the male perspective, because women can comment on things concerning Black men all day long, but it comes best from the source. So Kim, would you mind going ahead, sweetheart, and taking the lead in that conversation?
Yeah, absolutely. Hi, Atiba.
The way that she started that off, thanks for having me. And the way you just started off that off, Mary, my seat got hot.
No, Atiba. No, so it was a good segue because I want to dial it back a little bit to kind of address something that Jamie just mentioned and bring us into the conversation about that post. What Jamie is speaking about is the representation of what we call disenfranchisation. There's a whole, we're not even getting to the ballot. We're not even getting to the point of someone arriving at the polls and whether or not they're able to cast their vote or not. But we have to talk about the feeling that that person feels when they get to that point of not being welcome to cast their vote. A typical person like me, who is typically, fighting the power and gonna do what I, need to do regardless, but that's not the average person. If you face generations or years of messaging that has made you feel powerless, or media or conversation or online social content that reinforces the messaging that you are powerless, by the time you get to the poll and are not welcome to cast your vote, you feel powerless. So you go home. When you talk about those hardworking people, that's exactly who we're talking about. Those people who are targeted in those messaging, in that messaging.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And we don't hear from them often. They go home.
Mm-hmm.
That's how we then get to a conversation about the Black vote, specifically the Black male vote. It's not just a situation of, I don't like the candidate. It's not just a situation of, they're not doing anything from us. It's a situation of you not really understanding the power in your voice because you've been told for generations that you don't have it. That messaging has been reinforced lately through this last year and through the presidency and the current administration. So to hear you own that conversation is very disheartening as a Black woman because it's not powerless. You cast your vote, you state your opinion, you demand the space that you feel you deserve, whether you think it's going to end up the way that you want it or not. So when I listen to the young brothers, that like the one in that recording and the one that is giving justification for that level of messaging, again, it's disheartening. So I challenge us to think deeper, to discuss and come up with how we move forward and how we approach those conversations with people who are in that space to get them to see and own that power or reclaim it. Which brings us to Atiba. I think you and I were pretty much on the same page with a lot of things. Maybe the approach was different, but the thought process is very similar.
Yeah. So thank you again for having me on. I met Jamie and Jamie introduced me to Mary and Monica, and I feel really privileged. One, to just have been invited to be part of this conversation with you all tonight. The first thing that comes to mind is, if anyone who's been following me on social media, you've seen me write, keep your eyes on the prize. So the first thing right now is tonight. The first thing right now is we've got to figure out this fight and finish this fight. But a few weeks ago, we had a South Carolina state representative, Gilda Cobb-Hunter, who's also the president of the National Black Caucus of State Legislators, on our show. And she said something that was really simple yet profound, because I hadn't even thought about this way. She said, we've got to stop focusing so much on voter registration and focus more on voter education. Mm-hmm. So that's one of the first things. The second thing is that if you ask the average teenager today what was a poll tax, I have a feeling that, or particularly African-American, I have a feeling they don't know. If you told them, hey, why don't you count the jelly beans that are in that jar? And they took a guess, and they're going to think they might get a prize for guessing the right amount. Well, if you tell them, well, the prize used to be that would be your gateway to be able to vote, many of them would probably look at you the same way they would look at a phone that has a rotary on it and say, what is this? So we've got to do a better job of educating people about our history, first off, in this country. So a few weeks ago, I've been doing research on my family, and I'm going to bring us all back to this topic. And I've gotten all the way back to 6 great grandfathers, back to 1800, and he was white, and he was And then he had a son and he fought in the Union. Then he had a son and he was a slave owner. Getting to know my history is allowing me to understand better my story. And too often we don't tell the story of slavery. It's too hard. Oh, I don't want to watch that movie. I don't want to watch that. Well, you watch it so that you don't continue going through the same things that we're going through today. You watch it so that you're empowered, so that when you get to the poll, then you tell them that you demand that they let you vote because you have every right, because you know the struggle that you've already been through. So after this election, you're going to see me talking about, and God willing, Trump loses. And that's probably going to be a fight anyway. But you're going to see from me two fronts. One, a conversation about race and slavery that is combined with a conversation about sexism and slavery. Because sexism goes back to white women as much as it goes back to Black women. And racism goes back to all of us. So we've all been impacted by that. And we can't get to these other conversations, not even the policy discussions about reparations, if you don't know where we came from. So Frederick Douglass is my seventh cousin. And I'm listening to a book by David Blight about him. And what's really caught my attention is the conversation that happened around the 15th Amendment and getting the Black vote. And his argument to white suffragists like Elizabeth Cady Stanton, that, well, you already have the right to vote because you're married to a white man. We're trying to get the vote for the Black family. And while I didn't come up during that era, the white women there were very upset with him in terms of taking that position. And later on in life, he was very happy that he was able to reconcile and was a very staunch proponent for women's right to vote. And though it didn't happen during his lifetime, it was something that he did work very hard toward. So I say all these things because in order to get to answer these complex questions, we've got to get back to a simplicity in terms of message. We've got to get back to a simplicity in terms of story. And we've got to tell our story over and over again until we are Black and blue, until we are so tired of telling it, and we keep telling it until our children can repeat it, and until our children's children can repeat it, until others are repeating it without us having to say it. But we have to keep saying it because other people's history, George Washington, Abraham Lincoln, Thomas Jefferson, blah, 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 is always told. But when we hear the story of Frederick Douglass, we don't hear the story of like the struggle that he went through or how many grandchildren he lost. When we talk about Martin Luther King, he became a martyr. He died. He was shot down because of what he was fighting for. So we can keep going through all these stories, but the bottom line is we can't stop. We can't be turned around. And we have to keep moving, as John Lewis told us before he passed away, and is still talking to us through his op-eds today.
I think those are some really, really great points, Atiba, and that even is in reference to voting and understanding the importance of the local vote. That was one of the pieces, most specifically, that was an issue during this current election period. Many felt like their vote didn't count on the larger scheme because it's the electoral college. It's like they don't understand how we get to the point of the votes being tallied through the electoral college. That's the local vote. And then understanding the redlining and the rezoning. You know, we brought up that conversation. And you're right, a lot of people don't understand the process and they're making decisions based on that lack of understanding. So dialing it a second back, talk about the comparison between rezoning, redlining districts, and all of that.
So you know, a lot of people have been hearing about the census, but they don't understand its relevance. They don't understand that, you know, congressional districts are redrawn because of census data. Businesses, schools, homes are built because of census data.
How much money you get. I do some work with the census through my job. How much money you get from the federal government is largely driven by that census data. It's really, really important.
And I think I want to be careful with how I phrase this. I think that a lot of us are so focused on the presidency that we forget about races like Georgia, where Reverend Warnock is on the ballot for Senate. we forget about Jamie Harrison in South Carolina. And we forget about the down ballot races. Think about how much we have talked about Breonna Taylor. And in fact, we haven't talked about her enough. But when we talk about the attorney general there, who is Black, but is a traitor,
Right.
is carrying forward an agenda because those people in Louisville didn't come out and vote the way they could have. When we look at Mike Brown, when he was killed, I remember Jesse Jackson saying, don't you get it? You all haven't been voting. If you vote for the mayor, you can change who the chief of police is. This is where voter education keeps going back to. We focus so much on the presidency, the governors, and the mayor. We don't focus enough on the city council, the state legislature, the Congress, because
School
they are
board. The school board who decides whether we get vocational training so that children who are not best suited to go to college can leave school, train for a vocation so that they can get good jobs. And then maybe later they mature enough to where they want to go on to college. But in the meantime, they get a good paying union job out of vocational training.
Yep. So all these things impact what happens when we feel like we don't get justice. Now, you asked about redlining. So a lot of us, I mean, I live in Washington, D.C., where I have watched when it was predominantly 70% African-American, property values not go up. Taxes went up, but property values didn't. And then those people who could not pull money, equity out of their homes, keep fixing them up, keep doing things. What happened is with redlining, it just kept smaller, smaller to the point where they either lost their property or they sold it.
Yep.
And right here in DC, 23,000 African-American families have been displaced. When I say displaced through gentrification, since 2013. It is the largest per capita number in the country. DC has the highest Black infant mortality rate in the country. And we have splattered on a, and I'm saying this from this standpoint, and we have splattered on a street, Black Lives Matter, and everybody cheered and was like all happy. Oh, the mayor just like stuck it to Trump. No, she didn't. She pacified a community yet once again, which is what continues to happen. Mm-hmm. Because you throw us a bone and all of a sudden we jump and we say, it's okay. I'm good with that. And it's not okay. I'm looking right behind me and seeing the numbers for Kentucky, 49.5%, but it's still too early. But man, if he could take Kentucky, that would be like, well, it's not going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah, we have 12% reporting in Kentucky, and Biden is leading with only 12% reporting, but we know Democrats vote earlier.
Yeah, but the thing is that overall, these numbers and these things, whatever that we are watching and that we're seeing, we should look at it like this. I remember my history teacher, Ms. Coffey, used to say, if they want to keep it away from you, they put it in a book. And so that was her way of trying to implore us to read and to read about history. Well, if they want to get policy done, they know how to keep us from voting. And so whether or not it is redlining and keeping us out of moving us out of communities, whether or not it is census and keeping us from being able to fill out census data, or our fear of doing it, or our fear of not voting, we have nothing to fear but fear itself. We have to be engaged. We have to stay engaged. And this election is not just about voting. And I will say this again and again and again, no matter who wins tonight. This is about staying engaged in a process that they do not want us to be involved in. They do not want us to stay engaged. They do not want us to be part of the process. And we can get the numbers of women, the numbers of Blacks and Hispanics and Asian Pacific Islanders and Hispanics, et cetera, et cetera. Mm-hmm. If we only freaking stay engaged in this process. A democracy is not easy. It is messy, but we can clean it up.
Right.
But we have to be willing to stay in the fight.
So what do you say specifically to those men in this case that have elected to back out? Because there's been a huge percentage And that huge percentage, I don't think they realize, can really have a severe effect on the election.
I think many of them are just cowards. I think many of them won't step forward and tell you this. 1.6
I'm so
million,
happy you said it.
1.6 million Black men did not vote in 2016. I can't tell you how many white Hispanic men came up to me, put their arms around me and were like, Atiba, I just got to admit this to you, because I was a registered Republican, but I damn sure didn't vote for this guy. I voted for Hillary, and I was not quiet about the fact that I was voting for Hillary. But I believe that I didn't do enough in 2016 to make sure that she won, and that's my regret, and that's why I've been fighting so hard this election, because never again should we ever miss our shot. And there's too many men that's out there, Black, white, Hispanic, that are misogynist. And I'm going to keep saying it. And if it makes you feel uncomfortable, it makes me feel uncomfortable, I don't care. I'm going to keep saying it because it's just the freaking truth.
Yeah.
It's too many Black misogynists out there that are so worried about what will happen if a woman becomes the president of the United States or the vice president of the United States, and they don't want to accept or believe that they are or come to this whole thing that they're misogynist and sexist. But I know they are, because I've had the conversations with them. I've had the conversations with them about how they talk about this woman and that woman, or the music that we listening to, you know, in terms of like the misogyny that's been in that music all this time. So, you know, we've got to speak up. We've got to talk about it. It's a hard conversation, but we can't, I'm saying this to Black men. We will never get the progress that we're looking for, or respect that we're looking for in policy or further, if we continue to hold on to a misogynist past that was beat into us through slavery. If we don't start talking about the stories from slavery from this standpoint. A white woman is married to her husband. She couldn't keep him in bed because he's thinking about tipping down to the slave quarters to have sex with people like my great grandmothers. And then he's pushing out of bed her man. So the same enemy we have, because the white woman couldn't leave leave her husband, because where was she going to go? No job, no money. The Black woman couldn't go anywhere. Now he's impregnated her. Now she's saying, excuse my language, sell the nigger. Because, you know, what woman wants to have another woman who's competing with her, let alone a child running around the yard that looks halfway like her husband? I mean,
and
this
let's
thing
be
is real
honest,
corrupt.
this is rape. Forced sex is rape. And what woman wants to have a rapist baby? God bless a woman who's willing to do it, but this is rape. Let's say the word.
So here's your Me Too conversation. This is where, you know, this is a starting point. I'm not saying it's where you start, but it's a starting point. So just overall, when all this is coming about, when we're having these conversations, there are going to be some tough conversations.
Right.
I'm far from perfect in this whole thing, but I'm just saying that we have to have these conversations in order to address the other things. Because Hillary Clinton, I'm gonna tell you, in 2016, when people said to me, Atiba, it's so messed up, it was sexist and misogynist that Hillary Clinton lost, I was quick to say, no, she just didn't run a great campaign. And I am sorry for saying that, because Hillary Clinton was the most qualified person in my lifetime to ever run for president of the United States. And I heard Black men say, oh, I can't vote for her because she's a liar. But you can vote for a man who talks about grabbing women by the pussy? Seriously.
He's already told you how he feels about you and your issues and your concerns, and you're justifying them because of something that Biden said 20 years ago and Kamala doing her job as a prosecutor. We have to talk about those issues for the simple fact, and I think I said this on one of the posts, the things that we're dealing with today are the repercussions of those generational hurts, those generational wounds. When you talk about misogyny and you talk about the breakup of the African-American family, the distrust that was developed between the Black wife and the husband, the inability for him to protect her in that dynamic against the slave owner, a lot of those core animosities still resonate today. And when we talk about exemplifying them in politics and the expectations that we place on politicians to help cure those hurts, they can't. So stop asking them to. Stop expecting them to. The president has one job. That's to represent the constituents. But in order for him to represent someone, you have to demand what you need. So it comes from us. I get so sick of them saying they haven't given to or concerned themselves with the Black agenda. Let's first determine what the Black agenda is collectively. And then, like you said, we put together a team, we put together a pack, we put together a strategy to force them to do what it is that we need. I don't expect for nobody to feed me. I go and hunt, I go and cook, and I go and feed my family. And that's what we have to do in politics.
Mm-hmm.
Between the two candidates, I'm not looking for a husband. I'm not looking for a BFF.
Come on.
I'm looking for somebody that I can manage.
Take your
Trump is not manageable, plain and simple.
I'm not gonna lie.
Everyone knows it.
That's the only reason you should vote.
And I have to tell you all this. I've got maybe 3 or 4 more minutes. I've got to pop on another one before we start ours. But
he has his own.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Let me break in here one quick second. I want to say a couple things to Atiba. Atiba, I think you're my spirit animal. And I want to say to you that when you had Mary Hayes on your show, I was the one that was typing in all those messages.
Okay.
And I was screaming on the other end of the computer because everything you guys talked about that night was absolutely 100% correct. And I also want to say this. I just sent you a Facebook Messenger message. And there's one critical thing that you mentioned earlier that I want to talk to you about further, because I just had the same conversation today with one of my mentees, the same conversation. So when you read that, we'll talk offline. But I just want to say to you, I see that you went to the good Dunbar High School in the good Washington, D.C.
I like the fact you said the good one.
I was born and raised on 18th and Park Road Northwest. So I know that you understand growing up in the District of Columbia and what advantages and disadvantages we were up against, okay? But I just want to say that if I hadn't grown up in the District of Columbia and was afforded the opportunities that my parents, my mother with an 8th grade education, my father with a 2nd grade education, if I wasn't raised by those salt of the earth people, I wouldn't be sitting here talking to any of you right now, okay? So what you said about some men being cowards and misogynists, you can say that and not get backlash. But let one of us chicks say that and we get hate mail and death threats. I know because I've gotten them.
I'll say.
So we seriously need, I'll say anything, Kim, you know me, but we seriously need more Black and brown brothers like yourself to stand up and say that and defend us when we're attacked, because we say the same thing.
Because we are being attacked.
So I just wanted to say that, and bring me on your show anytime.
I would love to have you, and I will tell you all, I posted something the other day saying that I'm not an ally, in terms of the feminist and sex and gender conversation. And I say it from this standpoint. I intend to be family. I look at this because I don't want to just be in this conversation and jump out. My mother and I are having a lot more conversations about this. And I know that the reason why I feel the way that I do is because of the relationship that I have with my mother. Mm-hmm. And I'm her firstborn of 5. People tell me all the time I look like her. I know my love of history comes from her. I have to give a shameless plug about my book. I have a novel out. If you go to atibamadjun.com, it's called Saving Grace. And I mention it because the first book, it's a political thriller. There's a 2nd book coming in the next few months. It's already finished. We're just going through the editing stages. But one of the things I think that you'll find is that the way that I've written, especially the love story part of the book, it's really my way of using this platform to talk more about strong women and how important women are to men as in terms of their roles, in terms of what we do. And these are conversations I would love to have you all on our podcast. These are conversations that I hope that we can continue to have. And they're conversations that are necessary. And I'm sorry about what you all have experienced as a result of having this conversation. But I'm being loud about it because I believe that there are a lot of other people who feel the way that I do, who are men. I think I saw with and I think that if we keep talking about it, we'll find those people who I guess people call our allies, but we've got to build a family. We've got to be thinking about, should Biden win tonight, what happens with the country? Because we've got to figure out how to stitch it back together. And that's going to take a lot of listening. In some ways, it's going to take a lot of tough love because, the same way that they have exhibited and shown that they're not willing to negotiate. I was a Republican and I've been in those rooms, and I'm going to tell you that having a simple message will go a lot further than trying to explain everything away. Yeah. And don't be afraid to hold them accountable, and then don't be so quick to say, we want to bring you to the table, because they're not coming to my table for a long time. Because that's how you've got to make them feel uncomfortable to the extent that they know that if they get out of line, that what's coming. So
well, growth comes from a place of discomfort too. And I think that we can, I know that for me, growth comes from discomfort. And I think we've got a lot of people right now who need some discomfort to get to that place of growth.
Because I don't like the way that I feel, going to this tonight. We should be able to have an election and not be afraid that there's going to be turmoil. And this is all because of one person. And I look at this one person who has common things. He's a racist. He's a sexist. He's a xenophobe. And he has threatened our security as a nation. And I know that people are watching us around the world, because I have lots of friends around the world that are texting me saying, Atiba, we are with you all. We are praying for you all, because what happens to you is going to impact us.
That's right.
What's happening in Poland?
Yep.
That right wingers thought that it was okay to take away women's right to choose. We've got to speak up and we've got to speak out, and we cannot let this stuff come back. And because this is how they operate, and they like to be bullies. So they've taught me very well how to bully back.
Yep. I'm a fan. Thank you, Atiba.
Thank you all. Thank you very much. I wish I could stay longer.
Thanks for answering the call. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Let's have an after conversation. Once we win and we talk about next steps.
Yes. All right. I look forward to talking with you all again soon.
Thank you.
So we do have some polls that have closed in Georgia, Indiana, Kentucky, South Carolina, Virginia, Vermont, and parts of Florida and New Hampshire. And some of those races are closely watched. We have some early results coming in. Trump is currently carrying Indiana as expected at 64.1%. Biden is leading Kentucky with 12% reporting. New Hampshire, 1% reporting. Trump is leading with 61.5%. The Associated Press has not called this race, and I have seen some reports that said Biden was expected to carry that, and others that said Trump was expected to carry New Hampshire. So that's.
How about Georgia?
I don't have any data on Georgia yet. So
but I think Trump was leading in Georgia. And Amy McGrath is, few points ahead of McConnell.
Don't get me excited like that.
I want her to win. Did you say Trump expected to carry New Hampshire?
There are some reports saying he could carry New Hampshire, even that the forecasted share I have for him. Let me get back to the data from 538. Although 538 froze their numbers, so things are moving. So the original numbers from 538 had to.
Indiana just came in projected Donald Trump.
Yep, and that was as expected.
Hi, Buta.
Hi, Kimberly. How are you?
I'm good.
Welcome.
Speaking of strong women, hey, Buta.
How are you guys doing? Everybody going okay?
Doing great.
How are you feeling?
Anxious, really, and I think what Atiba was saying is this should not be our norm, that we're anxious about an election
I
and what
know.
the aftermath is. You know, not to diss any other country, but we're not third world. You know, what the heck? Like we're gonna have a coup or something, and
Right.
that's where the thoughts are. It's like, oh my gosh, are we gonna get violent and reactionary? So yeah, my anxiety is pretty shot up high. How are you guys doing?
I'm doing great. I have my pearls on. I have an invisible drink.
Yeah,
And I'm doing-
I saw Jamie's invisible drink.
Mine isn't invisible. It's very visible.
Kimberly's is real.
Oh,
Yeah, Kimberly's is real. And Jamie's
hear
is
you.
real.
Georgia's too early to call. Early to call. And Christy says hello to you. You know.
oh, Chrissy, how's she doing? See, I got a little Facebook message from her earlier today. So yes.
And Florida is 75% in.
75% what?
75%
in.
All right. So how are we addressing this when we have so many early ballots and then the mail-in ballots and stuff like that? Because right now, I think what they've been saying is I don't even know if they can officially call them. So when we're doing these numbers and this tracking, is that just going to make us crazier? Because we're like, is it real? Is it real? Is it real?
Well, I think that we need to take a step back now and realize this race could come down to, I mentioned what happened in Pennsylvania. I don't think you got to hear it, but there's polling states in Pennsylvania, actually in my hometown, where voters showed up and they had run out of ballots. And in many ways, all eyes are on Pennsylvania now for this election.
How do you run out of ballots?
And
did you not think people were
That's
coming?
what I want to know.
well, they ran out of ballots and sent some people home and told them that maybe you should come back, maybe not. But
What, tomorrow?
The thing to remember with Pennsylvania is Pennsylvania always certifies their election results. Their rule is 20 days after the end of the election. 20 days. That has always been their rule. Now, they usually know within a few days who won. Now, Pennsylvania also has that problem with the double envelopes that's been making its way through the court. So if you're following what's going on in Pennsylvania, they've got a lot of electoral votes. They've got a bunch of lawsuits pending already, and they're a big swing state. So this whole election could come down to whose votes are counted in Pennsylvania and who's not. Because remember, Pennsylvania is a complicated state. It's really almost trifurcated. We've got Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, and then where I'm from, which they refer to as the whole lot of Alabama in between. No disrespect to Alabama. Huntsville is there, which is one of my very, very favorite places in the whole world. Rocket City is the best. But I think this election could really come down to all eyes being on Pennsylvania and whose votes count and whose don't.
It's gonna all
Biden
come
wins
down to
Vermont.
money.
Did y'all get that? Biden wins Vermont.
I thought so.
How many electoral votes is that?
It's 3.
Vermont?
I'm not seeing it yet.
I can't see it yet either.
Yeah.
It's gonna all come down to Barrett. That's what it's all gonna come down to, not a state. I'm convinced. Like I said, Vanessa, this is 2000 all over again.
Well, in Pennsylvania,
We have somebody watching that said, Tara said, yes, me and the kids are basically locking in for the next few days. This is not normal.
Pennsylvania is already doing damage control for this. Their Secretary of State, wonderful woman, was already on NPR today trying to explain the process Pennsylvania has always followed to undo the damage that the President of the United States has done by lying about how quickly we actually get election results.
And I think that's the conversation we should have here, is that really what we are doing is we're just tallying. We're not coming up with the end result. Because there are so many places who won't even start counting this evening. They're mail-in ballots. They have other states, as we all know, if it's postmarked today, and you have another 3 days, or you might have 5 days that they can receive it and they count it. So we as a nation just have to be mindful that we have to be patient, right? We can't respond, regardless of what happens tonight. We can't respond and think that that is the ultimatum end. And then lastly is, we just also have to be mindful that the fact that it may change as the course goes. It is not because somebody's cheating. It's not because somebody stole votes. It's not anything nefarious like that, that it causes our country to be even in a greater upheaval. We really have to, as imperfect as the system is, we have to believe in the system.
We did get some early data from Florida, 53% Trump, 46.1% Biden. But again, Florida 29 electoral votes, but it is very early. Their polls don't even close till 8 o'clock.
Yeah, it's only 14% in.
And the one thing is that I agree with you, because I'm not that moved by what I'm seeing tonight, because I am almost certain we had much more people vote early and sent in their mail-in ballots. So this is my personal opinion, is that you have more Trump supporters that actually went to the polls today. Yes, they stood in line. Yes, they sent in ballots too, but not to the degree. His really hardcore base went today. Why? Because Trump likes to be seen. He did not want to appear as a loser today. He wants screen time. And the more times he can see his face on that screen, the more he feels better about himself. And the more he can tweet and everything else that he does. So I'm not moved by this, because he's a performer. And so performers like to see themselves. And so that is what tonight is about. Tonight is about him seeing himself on TV, him seeing himself all over the news, him seeing his face plastered everywhere as a winner, because most of his people voted already.
I was just about to say, Jamie, that's you.
Yep. It was time for the face. I was waiting for it.
Well, this is his strategy. I mean, there's a name for it. It's the Red Mirage strategy. It's because he knows his folks show up at the polls, whereas a lot of us voted by mail or voted early. And because we voted early, ironically enough, our votes come in later. They are counted later. So the things that we're seeing being tallied right now are more likely to be a bigger share of the Republican votes. So this is the Red Mirage strategy, is him to say, look, I'm ahead now, I won, and then to try to disenfranchise all the other voters.
I got something for us. It said,
Jamie, what you're saying,
Virginia's too early to call.
Jamie, what you're saying is absolutely true, because I am on the DemTech unofficial election results for the county, and it has all the numbers. And if you're looking at this, I'm gonna send you guys the link in a second, but if you're looking at this, there is a majority of Republican votes that have been counted. The Dem votes are still coming in. For instance, they have Daniel Gade, 66.72%, Mark Warner, 32.52. Now we know that's wrong.
Well, I just got a message that somebody said they called it Warner won.
Okay, so this thing is not refreshing.
Okay.
So do you know what site they're looking at, Buta, by
It was
any chance?
the AP race.
Okay.
Right now, it says that we have 35 in the Senate and the Republicans have 30.
Okay, we need the Senate. We need the Senate to flip.
No, we honestly, we just need to revamp everything and just start from scratch. And what Atiba was saying is we just have to sit at that table and change all the meals. And we're not asking anyone on the other side to bring a plate.
Just another message came in, more Facebook posts from Pennsylvania, this in Schuylkill County. Bridget Hepler-Wofford just voted using the handicap machine, which how great is that for handicapped people who can't get to that machine? Since they ran out of the other ballots at her voting stations, they are out of ballots everywhere. This is nuts. So this is happening all across Pennsylvania. They're running out of ballots.
This was planned. It was planned. There is no freaking way.
Yeah, but look what we have to do, right? We have to look at this where we start looking at a lot of these states, and in the middle of the elections, what they're doing is saying, oh, if you mailed it in, yeah, it's not going to count. If it doesn't get received by the 3rd, whereas before it just had to be postmarked on the 3rd, it's not going to count. We would put up these ballot boxes. Oh, but they're not official ballot boxes. We're not going to let you do the curbside voting. Those are, we know that all this. That's all voter suppression, which is why it's so important for us to come out and we vote so heavy-handed. You could pull any stunt you want. It's not going to change the outcome. That's on us to own, right? At the end of the day, we can't control them, but we can control us.
That's absolutely true. And I also think we need to keep in mind, though, that the reason this can work for Trump is because he's controlling the Justice Department like his personal lawyers. So he's going to decide, based on how this goes in Pennsylvania, whether he wants to sue about the double envelopes, whether he wants to sue about this or sue about that. He's going to make decisions about where he uses the courts and what he sues on to try to get the election results that he wants. And he can do that. But Buta, you're the expert on this, not me. I'm just a proud Pennsylvanian.
The interesting thing is, if you look at what he historically, how he's run his business, right? He
Into the ground.
Yep. And he could be in the wrong, and he's going to litigate the heck out of it because he's going to exhaust the other side or have them waste their funding that they can't then continue. So he almost wins by default. The biggest difference here, though, is this is our America. You know, regardless of what the outcome is, our work continues. We actually have to start working harder tomorrow than we've done to this point. You know, as each of you have been talking about, as Atiba as well, as we have to hold our political representatives accountable. Why did you take that seat? And vote, if I voted for you or I didn't vote for you, you still represent me. So we do have to, and Kimberly, you were saying this before, as far as this is a situation that what we have to do is we have to figure out is how do we tell them what our needs, our agenda are? Because we sit on the sidelines, are they going to guess? No, they're not looking our way. All they're doing is looking in the mirror. So we got to change that mirror to a window. They got to see outside and they have to see us.
Yeah.
But we have to be pounding the pavements day in, day in, day in, day in, and then day out, right?
Yep. And I think to Vanessa's point earlier, you know, even outside of definitely the PAC being a good tool or vehicle to get us there, but we have to realize that, and let me just say this this clause before I say it, not everybody is welcome to sit at my table.
Correct.
However, my table is open to people that have similar ideas, that have similar visions for this company, that include inclusivity, that include a celebration of diversity and individuality. And it's not based on color, it's not based on sex, it's not based on any of the stereotypical things that they're using right now to continue to divide us. So when I say things, it's very specific. I'm talking about a Trumpster. I'm not talking about a race, or I'm not talking about a person with a certain ideology. I'm talking about a Trumpster. And when we move forward, we have to realize there's coming together, there's an opportunity in coming together and really, like you said, coming up with that agenda, moving that agenda forward with the numbers and the power behind it. Hopefully the money eventually will come to support the ideas. But we have to get something together collectively that is going to force them into the positions that we need them to be, regardless.
I think that's so important. I also think we need to step back too, as we're talking about this whole conversation about how the court can be used and litigated, and especially for the younger folks who may be watching this. And remember, the Republicans have used this strategy before when we took the high road in 2000 with Bush and Gore. It came down to 537 votes that were unclear because of a hanging Chad. 537 votes in the state of Florida.
But let's say how they were not cleared because of the local vote and the people that were in positions to disqualify them.
Yes. So so when I'm talking about the double windows in Pennsylvania and how they could use the courts to decide this election, this is not being a crazy person. This has happened in the past. It came down to 537 votes, and Gore did the gracious thing. He could have dragged that out in the court for a very long time, but he did what he thought was best for our country, because whatever else you may think about Al Gore, he's a patriot. He loves this country and the people in it, and he did what he thought was best for the country. I'm not convinced he lost. And he did not lose the popular vote. Mary, I'm sorry.
Biden's slightly ahead in Florida.
How many percent?
That's new.
50.1 to 49.
Oh, he
And
was supposed.
what percentage of the votes is in?
It just flipped. I didn't see that.
Okay, that's okay. That's
But
good.
it's 3, he has 3 electoral votes from Vermont.
Can we get some music for Florida?
Mhm.
No, I'm too scared to celebrate.
You're too
Florida.
scared?
Yeah.
Florida's always historically a little iffy.
Yeah, it's
I think the reason we're neck and neck, and I would love to afterwards, Jamie, see those stats. I think the senior vote in Florida is turning Biden, is turning blue.
because Trump's trying to kill them off.
Basically,
Yeah.
he told him to
Yeah.
take one for the team.
And then after this election, you know he's going to cut Medicare and Social Security. He's
Right.
made the
Right.
budget untenable. The only way he can save Social Security and Medicare is to just let COVID first. I'll say it.
Mhm.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry. And my
Now-
parents are not expendable.
No.
Yeah.
Now, the other thing that we have to figure out, like when we start talking is individuals who are invested in our communities, in our nation, we have to start looking at the long game. Because
Yeah.
that's where I feel like we don't really do a thorough job of anticipating today's move, tomorrow's move, next year, right? We keep looking at, 48 hours. And you're like, your 48 hours are already spent.
Mhm.
That's done. So we just really have to figure out, because if you think about this, when Obama was president, they didn't allow him to fill any of the judicial positions, right? Hundreds of them.
Well, they didn't
Hundreds.
cooperate with him on anything. And then we've
No.
seen the trickle down effects on this. For example, we started working on the HBCU funding during Obama, and then Trump takes credit for it.
Mhm.
And then he signs an executive order. If for anybody following this, I don't want to take us off track, but when
No.
Trump is
I want y'all to talk about that, please. 'cause
okay, so this executive order, for those of you know, I work in human capital. I'm a workforce strategist. This executive order that Trump has signed, banning just diversity and inclusion training from the federal government, takes it away from federal funded schools too, which means they're HBCUs. So much so that 3 historically white universities have already cut it from their curriculums. So this could force the hands of our HBCUs. And I do, through my professional life, have the privilege of having done some work with 2 amazing HBCUs. And as a white woman, it has been such a fantastic privilege to get to work with these universities. And I will share, I have an undergraduate and a graduate degree from 2 Ivy League universities, and I would line them up with either of these as far as the caliber of the teaching, the research, and the students, hands down. I've in addition to my undergraduate degrees, I have a certificate from NYU. I've taken classes at Bucknell. I'm doing a program at MIT right now. So I've sort of seen the gamut of universities, and the HBCUs, I know we have some graduates here, are absolutely fabulous and amazing. And we should totally, they gave us Black Panther. And you know who else?
Excuse me, let me clarify. My HBCU gave you Black Panther.
What a tragic loss. Now I feel bad because I'm smiling, but think about the fact that Trump, we started this bill, and the only reason we need permanent funding for HBCUs is because Republicans could take it away. There was never any threat of losing that funding under Democrats. It was only because we don't want to work with Obama that this was ever a threat. And then he signs this bill where he doesn't want to do any sort of critical race training or diversity training in the federal government, which I'll talk to you about as a human capital strategist in a minute. And the problem that creates for us as taxpayers, which is in addition to this, but really now we're forcing our HBCUs to stop the training and the things that are needed. And I'll let the women of color speak to this, but I'm going to say this to the white women in the audience who are watching this. Race trauma is real, and read the science on it. And this is a necessary part of the curriculum. If you are a white woman who does not know about this, read about it, talk to your friends. Don't be afraid to have that conversation that we talked earlier about uncomfortable conversations. Yeah, it's an uncomfortable conversation. It's hard for us as white women to hear our role in traumatizing our friends. It is. It sucks. It hurts. It hurts that I played a role inadvertently in hurting people I love, but I'm going to own it and I'm going to get better and I'm going to be part of the solution. And we can't do that without having that hard conversation. You have to sit in that uncomfortable place.
Mm-hmm.
And we have to create that safe space for healing at the HBCUs. And what Trump has done is to force the hands of HBCUs to take that away. So I'm begging the white women in the audience, get angry. Do something about this.
I think part of the reason that many don't get angry is because, again, it goes back to the messaging. And the messaging that is being fed to them is that it's exclusive, that it's not inclusive, that it's reverse racism, that we are creating a space that is only celebrating African Americans and putting us above all other cultures. It goes back to knowing your history of why HBCUs were even created in the first place and why they're needed today. African Americans today are still not looked upon as leaders in certain industries, period. Tech, health, medical, law. We needed a place that was going to celebrate that knowledge base and give and feed into African, Black and brown, and it's not just African American, but Black and brown individuals, a place where they could thrive. And now let's be clear, HBCUs are not exclusive. Anyone can attend.
And they do. And they
like
do.
NCANT, yes, NCANT is a state school. Anyone can go there. It's just amazing, but anyone can go there.
It can. And so let's really state what HBCU stands for. Historically, Black College and University, because they were founded because of the history. And through history, we didn't have those opportunities. African Americans or Black and brown individuals are looked upon to be, good in the arts or good in sports and all of these other areas that do not represent the wider of our community. And so that's why they're relevant. All of those people, all those individuals, those kids that are coming up through elementary school, junior high school, and high school, they need to know that there is this place where representation exists. They can see those scholars coming out, getting those degrees and being celebrated. And then as they work and maneuver their way through their profession. I would love to say that at your typical Ivy League that happens, but it doesn't. Even today.
And as someone who went to two, allow me to be very clear. If you look at the stats and graduation rates of people of color, particularly men, particularly males, they are not equivalent to white people in those universities. And it's because of the sense of otherness and the ostracization that we do create at these universities. And there's data on this. This is not me saying that, this is not Jamie's opinion. This is data. Speaking as a workforce strategist and human capital strategist, into the white women, because I know the Black women know this. There's data behind this. This is real. You're hearing, and I'll shut up now because I'm talking over women of color, which is really fucking tacky.
Well,
but
Amy, we love and the reason I say that is because you bring the stats, and a lot of people do not understand that this is not just opinion. This is not just my interpretation or our interpretation of an experience. There is actual evidence behind, there's actual history behind all of these things that we're talking about. I just said this to someone online. Are you really that arrogant to say that generations of Black and brown people are just hypochondriacs, that they're just that creative, that they're making up this whole experience? Are you really that naive?
Well, it's Jared Kushner with the, Black people have to want to be successful. I can't want it for them, or whatever the hell he said. Even Cornell, where I went to undergrad, that I'm so proud to have gone to, and I thought was, it changed my life. It's the best opportunity I ever had. I don't know why they let me in. I think it was a clerical error, but it was the first Ivy to accept all people, women, people of color. We still have crappy stats, and we do. So even the first one doesn't have it right, and they do make really good efforts. They really are trying. They've been trying since 1865 when they were founded. They've been trying. To your point, the data is real. So even after hundreds of years, we didn't get it right because we didn't listen.
Oh my God.
Listen.
What, Mary?
Mary, don't say it.
65% for Trump, 32 for Biden.
Where?
Virginia.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, let's step back. Have we counted
the mail-in ballots and the early votes not in yet?
Okay. Because
Okay.
when did I vote? First day early voting. When did you all vote?
The
That week.
following
Mail.
Biden is beating Trump in Georgia. Hallelujah.
Yeah, 54 to
Close to
44.
call, but oh man, the numbers just went off the screen.
I
Hold on.
got it. It's
Okay.
54.7% for Biden, 44.2 for Trump.
Now
That's
I know Loudon is really blue, but I was up this morning, as some of you know, at
Hey, it said
5:30.
something about Pennsylvania.
I'm a little concerned about Loudon lately.
Well, where I was at my polling place, I was handing out sample Democratic ballots, and I was in a face shield and a big N95 mask. So I think I was scaring everyone. So maybe they just took the Democratic ballot because they were afraid of me. But they very clearly wanted the Democratic, not the Republican.
Early to call.
We're winning the Senate. The
Wait,
Senate,
wait. What?
Wait, we could flip the Senate?
35 to 30. Need 4 Senate wins to take it.
God.
Did Wexford, did they
Georgia
report?
too early to call. It's 53.1 for Biden, 45.8 for Trump. That's Georgia with 4% in.
Okay, so happy about Georgia.
If Biden pulls Georgia, that's huge.
That's
if he
huge.
pulls Georgia, that is freaking huge.
But I'm ecstatic about the Senate because I almost feel like if the powers that be could flip that
Yeah.
Senate,
There's some
I
Senate
wouldn't even
members
care about
The
it.
only data in for Virginia is
West
from
Virginia
Mecklenburg.
Supposed to call, too early to call.
Yeah,
And there was another one. Darn it.
the only data in for Virginia is from Mecklenburg. It was 399 votes for Trump and 170 for Biden. We expected that area to be red anyway. This is nothing to panic about. We don't have anything in. We do have a little bit from a blue area in at Chesapeake, and a little bit in from an area outside from Richmond area. But we don't have. We have nothing in from any place else where we expect the big. We don't have anything in from Fairfax. Nothing in from Loudon, nothing from Prince George's County.
Where are you looking at those numbers? I want to go to the site.
If you go to the CNN election results, they're bringing them in, and you can look by county.
Okay, because I'm on MSNBC.
I got like 12 windows open in my.
I gotta open theirs.
I think Fairfax is going to be blue, of course. I think
Fairfax, Loudon should be blue. But what's interesting to me today when I was handing out the Democratic sample ballots is the gentleman doing it for the Republicans. One of them actually was a little chatty and very, very nice, but he was from Ohio. The Republicans had to import their people to pass out the ballots in Loudon.
I don't know. I think there's a lot that are still mad about 2 things that they're not letting go: the mask and the schools.
Hey there, guys.
We all want our kids to go back to school. I think we need to start having that conversation. We all want our children back in school. We just want them to be safe. And I want my kids' teachers to be safe.
Right.
Of course, I've got a dyslexic child. I've got a child with ADHD, and then I've got one who coasts through online school like nothing. But of course I want my kids back in school. I've got a kid who's really, really struggling. And my dyslexic kid, if we can just like not backslide this year, I'm happy. And I'm paying for a tutor, which means I've got a side hustle. But everybody should have a side hustle. Vanessa can tell you about that. But
I have several.
That's enough. Hey, I don't know what side hustle she's talking about. That might be a different off-topic conversation.
I teach. Okay, I teach HR to feds. It's all on the up and up.
I didn't judge. I just commented.
I don't have any other talents.
No. You have to see her other side hustle. She didn't wear the costume today.
But I mean, I think we need to start having that shared conversation and just saying we all do want our kids back in school, but it has to be safe.
Yeah.
And
I tell you, my kid's not going back until I feel it's safe.
Until it's safe.
I think people are too over, what's the word, confident. I know Jamie's talked a lot about, the risks that she, goes through by being exposed. But I think a lot of people walk around and they just suspect, well, I have no underlying illnesses. I'm going to be fine. It's just like the flu, but if they're anything like me, you don't know that you have those challenges until you're in that challenge. I mean, my experience, I almost died and found out at 35 or 40 that I'm allergic to all antibiotics. So, it wasn't something that I knew. A lot of these people are not walking around expecting to have an adverse reaction to COVID. They're in
Quickly,
it.
66% of the votes in Florida, Biden 50.4, Trump
Yeah.
48.7.
Oh, it's closing that gap.
Yep. Yep.
I don't
Let's
know
get
how
it.
he could win it without Florida, but
Let's get it, Joe.
but I think it's going to come down to all eyes on Pennsylvania, and it's going to end up in the courts over those double envelopes and these people who didn't get ballots.
But this is the thing, Miami-Dade is coming through.
Yeah,
Miami-Dade is coming through. That's
They are.
important.
So that's something we're going to need to have we need to have a hot wash after this, because if Biden manages to convert the Cuban population in Florida,
So Warnock
to
is
talk
beating,
about
Warnock is beating that other chick in Florida, in Georgia, excuse me. Oh man, these numbers are flipping fast.
yeah, they're flipping. pretty quick.
McGrath is not gonna pull it out.
She's not.
Mhm.
Well, hold on, it's only 22% in, I'm sorry. 56 to 40 right now.
Okay.
1% in South Carolina. Lindsey Lou Graham needs to go.
No, he needed to go.
I was so helpful for hopeful for Jamie
What
Harrison.
those numbers look
He
like,
would be so
Vanessa?
great.
For Lindsey Graham.
I'm looking for Purdue to go in Georgia.
Did you see that number, Vanessa?
Huh?
For Lindsey, did you see that number yet?
Yeah, it's flashed too fast. I'm watching Kornacki's show and they're going by real fast.
I'm telling you, I'm kind of just holding on to the Senate. I'm
Democrat Mark Warner wins re-election in the U.S. Senate.
What are those percentages?
Hold on, let me look.
Yeah, because that's gotta be, they call that pretty quick.
This site still has Biden carrying Georgia at 51-48.
Yeah, but it just got smaller. It was 47, 54. I thought, a second ago.
Okay, hold on.
Yeah, it's like a 6-7 point difference.
It's not giving numbers. It's
And
just
it looks
saying,
like they've got most of the votes in from Atlanta too. And after Atlanta, it's going to swing back the other way.
Mhm.
Because they've got Atlanta, Macon, Athens should go blue, but the rest of the state.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can get to CNN because this site is, oh, what's this? Oh, good Lord.
So Jamie and Kimberly, when you were talking about like the mask issue and the school issue, I think the part that also what you have right now is you have fatigue, because we don't know how long this is going to be. So it's almost like being on a treadmill and nobody's telling you when you're going to get off. It's hard to do, but if you know you got to do 20 minutes, you can kind of struggle through it. And I think that's the problem that we're having, the challenge that we're having with the mask is it's supposed to be 2 months, it's supposed to be 5 months. We're now in month number 8, you know, and we hear news saying that it may be another year before we get a vaccine. So it's just the exhaustion. And then I think the other part is you get some people who reconcile themselves to thinking, you know what, if it's going to happen, it's going to happen. And you're like, no, you have to have some self-accountability, protect it from happening.
Well, that's where we should have just told people it's going to be a year. We should have told people this is our plan for a year and structured it for a year, because the lift from a change management perspective is almost nothing to put us back into the classroom. Going back to normal is almost nothing, but it had to be planned to have to do this all year and planned our instruction for the year. We'd be in a much better place to be able to pull this off and give high quality learning experiences. Mia's here.
Hey there. Sorry, we're still driving.
Joe Biden projected to win Virginia over Trump.
Oh, please God, yes.
Please God.
They better, or I'm moving.
Virginia's coming through blue.
Virginia better come through strong.
I remember when we turned blue, I opened my door to my house and I screamed in the streets.
Yeah, I couldn't believe that. That first year was like, wow.
I got my blue dress on, even though I think I look better in red. I went with the blue.
I can't get CNN up, so I'm gonna have to stick with MSN.
I think
to your point, I'm so perplexed about how all of that conversation is not squarely put on the current administration. How are we blaming anyone else but Trump for the fatigue that we're experiencing? We weren't given the information. We weren't properly prepared. The resources were monetized and weaponized.
Kim, you act like we had a playbook and we just completely ignored it.
I
Isn't
know.
that the one holding the
Only
door or
told us.
table or something?
It only told us.
Or that we had it, or that we were the best rated the best prepared country for a pandemic, and then we screwed it all up. But
Or
I don't want to.
actually, no, better yet, I'm sorry. If only somebody had told us and I had not told the senators and my crew who were investing in the pandemic, or the people who had stock in the stock that was about to crash. If only I hadn't spent time with them and getting them prepared for the pandemic and maybe the American people instead.
Yeah.
Crazy
Look,
talk.
we
But
can look hindsight on that all day long. And honestly, the situation just becomes that we still don't have answers. Forget about the fact that we've lost 8 months. What are our solutions? This idea of don't even take personal accountability to wear a mask so that you can control your little environment. That is your biggest management.
I disagree. I think we have the answers, but he has created so much doubt in the constituents that they don't trust the answer. Anytime we are listening to a crooked politician instead of the scientists and the global community, that's a problem. It's not rocket science at this point. Wash your hands, wear a mask, social distance, keep safe. What's the question?
Yeah.
But people don't trust it. They think it's a conspiracy. They think it's a lie because they've been told to think that way.
You know, and I know I'm not saying anything that we all haven't felt, for like every day you think like, wow, this is like the craziest of crazy. And the next day that just ramps up like another 10 notches. And you're like, whoa, you know, but our ability to withstand that is amazing. It really is. Because when you sit there and you could hear the president of the United States talk about how doctors are profiting from COVID and people dying from COVID, you're like, did that really come out your mouth?
So locally, Zach Cummings, Ara Bagdasarian, and Carrie Nacy are going to win the 3 seats on the town council.
So Nacy's the Republican?
Nacy is the Republican.
Okay.
And this is her 3rd time running.
Did she run against Replogle or who was that?
She ran against 3 Democrats.
Okay.
So
I wanted to split it.
Bill Replogle, Ara is going to get that 3rd seat. Then Zach, Carrie Nacy is getting the most votes right now.
All right, like combined over the other 3 or relative to the other 3?
Sort of relative. Well, relative to Zach Cummings. The other 2, you know, they're not all in yet, but this might be too close to call, but Zach, Ara, and Carrie looks like they're going to get those 3 seats.
Will they announce the mayoral race in there for Leesburg?
Yeah, Kelly Burke resounding. I'm getting ready to go to her party.
Okay.
3,174 to Ron's 1,991.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we have Mia here.
Hey, Mia.
Hey, Mia.
Hey there. Hey, everybody. Sorry, I am still going to my last polling location. I've been all over the state of Maryland, and we're almost done.
How's Maryland looking, poll-wise?
We won't know till 8 o'clock once they close them and start releasing data. Our mail-in ballots were 2-1. Republicans caught up to us through early voting. So it's going to be up to the independents to see if we pull off this win tonight.
Wow, that even?
And that's where I am. I'm independent.
Yep. So we're looking at a possible repeat of 2008 where Democrats could win. But, you know, when you take a look at the honest numbers of the historical stuff, you know, we could lose, but it's really up to the independents and how well Joe Biden's message delivered to the entire state of Maryland to make Maryland all blue before we start remapping here for the next election.
I don't know. I maybe I'm being overconfident, but I have complete faith in Maryland. It's going to go blue.
Oh, absolutely. We want it to be all blue, all 8 congressional districts.
Mm-hmm.
Have the polls during the day been busy in Maryland?
Absolutely. Some lines are moving fast. There are a lot of people are still going to their early voting locations instead of their normal polling locations because of bad information from the State Board of Electors. But you know what? I'm thankful that they aren't being turned away. They're just able to vote, and their voice and stories are being counted today.
Awesome. Because when I was driving around Loudoun today, except for my 6 o'clock polling station where it's mine, but I had voted earlier. I just drove by. That was about 40 deep on the outside, but everywhere else that I drove, it was pretty much people were filling inside. There was not a whole lot of outside lines. So maybe that's a good sign that we just voted all early. But hopefully.
We had a really long line out the door when I started. I was there at 5:30. We opened the doors at 6 at my station, and it was really long. But it actually, by the time I left at 8, seemed to have really decreased a lot.
Okay.
But I will tell you that I was handing out a lot more Democratic ballots than the Republicans were handing out. Although I did, again, have the scary face shield and the mask. So maybe they were afraid to tell me no.
Yeah, in Cecil County, we've had people outside the building waiting 2 to 3 hours because it double horseshoe through the parking lots. So some counties are fortunate; they're moving lines fast, but others they're just lacking.
I have to say, I have to commend Loudoun. We have, I think, 97 polling stations.
We do.
So that, to man them is obviously, it's definitely a trial to be able to do that. But what an amazing service to the community. And when we look at some of these other states, you have, very few, and you create that disincentive to vote. So and also having voted early at the different polling stations for Loudoun, I think Loudoun knocked it out of the ballpark. How they handled this was out of control, magnificent.
I have to agree with that.
And I will agree with that, Buta, because Kelly and I went around to all 11 polling places just in the town of Leesburg today.
Mm-hmm.
It was incredible.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, that's when you start seeing stuff behind the scenes, and because it works, we may not even note it. We look at some of these other jurisdictions and they don't have enough ballots. Again, intentional, good argument for it. If it was not intentional, who could be so inept?
At this stage of the game, I'm going to put my money on intentional.
It has to be, because no offense, this is not your little town mayor's race that you lost a box on, Amazon, right? This is the presidential election. You know how many people are registered to vote at that polling station. Of course you have enough.
Right. And we had already seen the increase in numbers throughout the last couple of weeks. So you knew that this was coming.
Yeah.
Yeah, there should have been extra, if anything else, not a lack of thereof. So, Jamie, I don't know if you can hear me, but Mia is on, and it would be great if you could introduce her to everyone so that we kind of know who she is and what she's doing.
Before you do that, I'm gonna check out, and then I'm gonna try and come back in.
Okay.
But I'm gonna go spend a little bit of family time before I lose my mind. But I adore you guys. Thank you very much, and then we'll see you in a little bit.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Amy, that's all you.
Oh, it's all me?
Here.
Mia, I have not met Mia in person, but she does know my amazing friend Marty, who gives her the highest recommendation. And Mia is a 20-year military veteran who served in the Army and the Navy and the DC National Guard. So I guess she was trying to, did you miss like one of the, there are 5 sides of the Pentagon? Did you want to tour all of them? She is also a proud member of our LGBTQ community, which is obviously one that I am very supportive of as well. And she is running for Congress. And you're in the 1st district, Mia? I want to make sure I get the district number right in Maryland.
Yes, you got the correct number. Yes, Maryland's
And
first.
yes, and so my friend, she's very good. My friend Marty had done some work on her campaign and felt that she was just somebody who did a really good job of representing the goals of diversity and inclusivity and moving our country toward having a soul again, might be the way to describe it, that we thought were important. And what I really liked about her is her tagline, which I thought was very much in alignment with us, was Mia is running for Congress to restore equality and equity in our communities. So is that a fair introduction, Mia?
Absolutely, that's a great one. Normally I say equity first and then equality, because we've tried to fight for equality, but not really equity until the Civil Rights Act was, fought for. But geez, in this last 4 years, we've seen what Donald Trump has done, where he's basically destroyed our civil rights and taken it to court. So we need to be able to change that.
Yeah, I think that's a great point that she brought up about equity as well as diversity, because that is a very specific need that remains unaddressed. You can be inclusive but still not give equal access.
Yeah. Okay, so I finally parked so that y'all can see me. But yes, it's wonderful to be with you. Marty's phenomenal. I'll be seeing her in about 10 minutes as soon as I finish doing what I'm doing here on the island. And then we're going to be hopefully celebrating later tonight.
Will you please tell her I said hello and give her my love? She should.
Absolutely, I will. Thank you. I'm glad that she invited me. I knew I was supposed to call in at 7:30, but I was running down the road. I'll be out in a minute, Dennis.
So being a military veteran, and that's another cause that's very dear to me. I will share my dad did his 20. He was in the Marine Corps and then in the Army. And he did some stint in the National Guard. So like you, he sort of was around. And my grandfather lost his leg at the Battle of the Bulge. So he does have is Purple Heart winner. And so this is taking care of the military is actually very important to me. I was married to a man my boy's father was in the Air Force. And so, I support the military mostly as part of my job. How do we, I think one of the things that's interesting to me about watching this election is that we have a commander-in-chief who refers to people like my dad and my grandfather who lost his leg and was still having shrapnel removed from World War II from his body in 2003. He was still having shrapnel removed from his body and in pain. Referred to my grandfather and my dad and my ex-husband, who is probably a sucker and a loser, to be honest, but not for that reason, as a sucker and a loser, and refers to people like Jim Mattis, who I had the pleasure of doing some work for, who I respect tremendously. My favorite, one of his favorite quotes that he used when he resigned from working for Toupe Fiasco was "a republic if you can keep it," which is of course from Franklin. And that's the way I feel about this entire election, which is a republic if you can keep it.
Absolutely,
and we've seen a shift in the military from overwhelming support for Darth Cheeto to, particularly from our senior leadership, to someone's outright vilification and understanding that this is not a man who supports or respects sacrifice or the honor of our military. And given that you've sacrificed so much for our country, what can we do, especially those of us who did not serve, to sort of honor that and get that message out there that, this is, and I do want to also share for it, particularly for people who don't do a lot with the military, if there's a great article in the Atlantic that's a few years old that if you're not from a military family, that I would recommend everyone read, and it's entitled The Military Caste. And what it talks about is there are a lot of myths around the military, and in the United States, it's the same families that serve over and over and over, war after war. There's this myth that it's poor people who join the military, and it's not. It's not poor people, and it's not really rich people. It's the middle. but it's the same families over and over and over. And most of my job involves a lot of military manpower. And what we found as far as what motivates people to join the military is either a family member or a close friend or something. It's those relationships. And that's why we see this happen over and over and over. So the reality is we've got what they call the military caste, which is people who are very closely associated with the military. And then lots of Americans who don't really know anybody who served, don't have family members who serve. And I don't think we're making that connection with the military. Everybody says, oh, I support the troops. I love our troops. But they're supporting this man who were first my grandfather and my dad and my ex-husband, who, again, probably a sucker and a loser for a different reason, but is a sucker and a loser. How do you think we can make that connection?
The best thing we can do right now is wait for these election results, get him out. If he stays in, impeach him again. And then, of course, for us in the community, we have to work with organizations like Modern Military Association. I know I miss it, of America. I think it is MMAA. But if you go to modernmilitary.org, they're a wonderful organization that works nationally. They have chapters all around the entire place. We work with them in order to support our military, because we know we're not losers and suckers, and they also help our LGBT community as well. They helped me when I took on Obama. They helped me when I took on Trump. It sucked having to be Jane Doe. But, it makes a big difference when, now that after I did the Women's March and other opportunities came up, like the Out 100, we can stand up and serve proudly. And then when he tweeted at us to destroy our family, destroy our healthcare, ruin our pensions, what he didn't understand is that majority of our military, some of them are CEOs, mayors, elected officials who still put on the uniform on the weekends to serve our country. So it makes a difference that, our military can be any one of us. And we have to be able to not judge them, but treat them the same. Because like when President Trump said what he said, he's not going to be that in about 24 hours, but he basically called my great grandfather, who was a POW who got shot down in a B-17, a loser and a sucker. I find that completely disheartening to my entire family, who has been in the military in one branch or another, including the Air Force. So I'm glad to have served 20 years. I had to fight to retire. And then to see what's going on with everybody else losing their promotions and so much more, we need to provide a hug and, a handshake, a salute, a thank you for your service. But when after you say that, follow it up with action, like how can we support you? And then there's different ways, because if not, then we'll end up as homeless veterans, with a sign on the side of the street asking you for money. It's the truth. Been there, done that. So things can change for a lot of us when we, support organizations to make changes happen and represent those who are in need. Okay, I gotta go. I will be right back. Okay.
Okay.
Do we new numbers?
We've got some stuff coming in.
Anxiety.
Florida, New Hampshire, and Pennsylvania, their polls are closing in 1 minute. So we'll start getting some data coming in from them. And Ohio looks like it's going toward Biden right now, and West Virginia also.
Somebody said Trump just won Kentucky.
Mm-hmm.
So you guys, Wexton's not doing well.
What? Against Alicia, who couldn't even spell, she couldn't even spell Loudoun County.
That crackpot sounding like she's a member of the Addams family, Alicia Andrews, is winning.
Or any of the votes from Loudoun and Fairfax in yet? Because remember, we make Prince George's County.
Because none of these freaking websites are refreshing correctly.
Yeah, mine keeps timing out as well.
I've got a concern about Loudoun.
Was her name Andrews, the one she's running against?
Yes. Yes, and she ran this, she had that terrible ad with the flames, like the whole country is going to be on fire. That misspelled Loudon. If Jennifer Wexton wins, it's like, no, we've got unrest and fire now, and that's under Trump. So I think that the problem is that we need to get rid of the
People
apprentice.
are so fickle, because I even saw signs in my community with her, and she had the audacity to leave a postcard in my door. I ripped it up and threw it in the trash.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So the Senate, 36 Dems, 31 Republicans.
Can you hear me?
I guess that's too early.
Yeah, I still can't get mine to load. I don't know. Let me see what I can get from the New York
I'm not
Times.
getting.
So Trump won South Carolina. I don't know what's wrong. What the hell is wrong with
It
South
looks like
Carolina?
Biden has 30 electoral votes and Trump has 18 right now.
They're calling Virginia for Biden.
Oh, thank God.
Thank
Maryland, Biden, New Jersey, Biden, Connecticut, Massachusetts,
Get a little
Vermont,
scary.
Illinois, Biden. But 0% is in, so that's a little weird, but
And he's winning Georgia and Ohio. He's got to get Pennsylvania.
well, I think Pennsylvania, I think all eyes are going to be on Pennsylvania between.
Well, Pennsylvania just closed 2 minutes ago.
Yes, but I think what we're going to do is we're going to have problems with the folks who couldn't get ballots. And then what's going to happen with those double mail-in ballots? I think if Trump doesn't win Pennsylvania, he's going to try to drag that out in the courts.
Right.
He can and he will. Again, 537 votes.
Doug Jones has got to keep that seat. He's got to keep that seat. And we got to get Susan Collins the hell out of Maine.
She's the worst.
We
Women
need
who don't
four
help
Demo-
other
we
women.
We need four
Florida
Democrats.
is so
to
close.
take-
It's like
we need 4 Democrats to take the Senate. 4. All right, I'm logging off. I'm going to a party. I'm getting stressed out. I'll
Well,
come
I
back
hope you
on.
have a wonderful evening, Vanessa.
before you get,
See-
if you're stressed out, you might want to hang out for a minute, because Morgan is going to take us through a little bit of meditation. And
Oh, I need that. Okay, I'll
so
stay.
we'll sign out. So just hang out with her for a minute and take it
Okay.
away.
Great. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you great.
Awesome. Great to see you all again. So I thought I'd just talk real quick about what grounding means, and then we'll do a brief meditation together. So right now, we all might be experiencing things that are heightening our sympathetic system, meaning that our bodies are pumping out more hormones and different things that are gonna keep our body in this like fast-paced mode biologically. And stress like that can sometimes actually be helpful in our life, but when it's chronic, that's when it causes a lot of problems, and you see like these downstream effects of just like being tired all the time, not being able to focus, and all kinds of things. So what can be really helpful is just taking a moment to ground yourself. One way to take out stress.
Is that what you meant?
Please help.
Yeah, so I don't know. I actually want to ask some questions because I think it's fun to be engaged. What kinds of things do you think that we're experiencing now that can heighten our sympathetic nervous systems? What are we experiencing? Say it again.
Besides the election?
Well, even from the election, like if you zoomed in on what parts of it, like what words would you say are causing it?
I can tell you for me, what's getting worse is when I hear 45's voice on my television screen, which is why I stopped watching it and the news so much because of that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I definitely filter out what I allow into my world when I'm experiencing like these heightened stress. So definitely, yeah, what we're hearing around us. What else?
I think for me, I'm genuinely fearful of
Mhm.
the actual real harm that is going to come to vulnerable communities if he's reelected. I'm afraid of right-wing militias. I'm afraid for my LGBTQ friends. I'm afraid for my friends who are people of color. I'm terrified women are going to lose abortion and then IUDs and then our careers. The whole The Handmaid's Tale was not a how-to manual. But I'm also, more broadly, as someone who studied a lot of history, the United States in many ways is an empire, and empires end slow and then they end quick.
Mm.
And that is what I am most fearful of, is the safety that we will lose, and the number of people who could go hungry and lose their homes. I love this country. I want us to stay intact, but it's not about that and just the love of the name of the United States, but the fear of when that happens, if that happens, the number of people who will be hurt, and how incredibly easily avoidable this situation was by just caring about other people.
Yeah, so I'm hearing fear and uncertainty, lack of safety, and a sense of disrespect in a way. And all those things that you all have mentioned so far bring us back to survival, right? I think we're at a time where there's a lot of things up in the air. And like you're pointing out, it's not just as simple as who's going to be the next president or not. There's downstream effects to things that are happening every day right now. And not only that, but we have things like COVID impacting us on a multitude of layers of how we navigate through our world, people's opportunities that they have with work and whatnot. And then the visual reminders of Black lives being lost and so many things like this are creating heightened levels of stress in our bodies and in our minds. And so grounding ourselves can give us a moment to connect with the present moment, because I think as we think about, the future, which we need to do, right? Like we're voting now for our futures, but to be able to function in the present moment, we have to connect our bodies to a lower state of ease that is hard to find when we're always thinking about like the future or the past. Is everyone following so far?
Yep.
Great. Okay, so grounding is a process of just connecting with your body and your current surroundings. And this is helpful because it literally causes your body to start connecting to those pathways that help you digest and rest, as people call it, your rest and digest system, your parasympathetic system. So by tuning in to like, okay, I'm experiencing like, either it's common for people to stop breathing altogether or to hyperventilate throughout their day. So just noticing, okay, I'm not breathing, or I'm breathing really fast. Maybe finding words to what your experience is. So oftentimes we tend to oversimplify our experience. We might say, I'm mad, or I can't focus. But maybe spending a minute trying to zoom into what is actually behind that. Are you frustrated? Are you annoyed? Are you fearful about X, Y, and Z? Like trying to zoom into what your experience actually is on an emotional level, but then also on a physical level. So like for me, my most common symptom of anxiety with my breath is I will hold my breath. And it's not even that apparent to me because I'm so used to it. I'll just like kind of notice, oh, I'm not really breathing. And so tuning into, okay, how's my breath? Are any of my muscles tensed up? Like a lot of people tend to scrunch up their shoulders throughout the day and not really notice it until they're like, oh, why are my shoulders so tense? So kind of doing a full body scanning, being like, okay, are there any tense muscles? Am I feeling really hot or really cold? Just kind of noticing what your full experience is. And so I like to set reminders on my phone to do this. Whatever you can do to kind of give yourself a little nudge to check in with yourself. Some people like to put little post-it notes in their bathroom, like on their mirror, something like that, as like a, hey, like do a check-in, or somewhere that you're gonna see this. I like my phone because I can set like different times throughout the day, and it doesn't have to be a big interruption, right? Just something in your calendar that pops up for like a second. Or sometimes even I've had friends who are like, hey, let's be accountable with this, and like text each other, hey, have you checked in with yourself today? So just finding ways to make this something you incorporate throughout your day, to check in and say, what is my experience? Because I was actually talking to a friend the other day, and she said, it helps me when people ask me, how are you feeling? Instead of just, how are you? Because it's becomes our automatic response to be like, oh, I'm fine, you know? And so that's why I like to say, check in with your experience, because it's not about trying to give an automatic response or like check something off a box. It's actually like, what actually is going on in my world? And I think if we're all more in tune to our world, one, we can express our needs more clearly and therefore get them met. And then we can also show up to understand others' needs more fully. And so I always, in my yoga practice, like to end the class by the students acknowledging them showing up for themselves, enabling them to show up for others as well. And I think it's the same for this kind of practice. And this can take as little as, 2 minutes or as long as an hour, depending what you want to explore. So let's just,
Morgan, I have one of the members of the group here, Jessica. She says, I relax my jaw by lifting my tongue to the roof of my mouth. I clench my jaw often when she's stressed. So that's the way that she handles that.
That's such a great tip. And it's so common to clench our jaws and furl our eyebrows and not notice it. That's a really great tip. Thank you for sharing that. Great. Okay, well, I'm going to walk us through a meditation. And the last thing I want to say before jumping into that is my two primary tips that I want people to take away from this is this choice to frequently ground yourself and check in. And then secondly, what I like to call a self-care menu, create that for yourself. So with our world today, there's almost too much information out there, too many things that we could possibly do. So that when we're exhausted, we do nothing because it's too overwhelming to make that choice, which is a real thing, that exhaustion of constantly making choices. And so I like to recommend to people, and I do this for myself, create a self-care menu of different things that serve you, that meet different needs for yourself. So like things that are more pampering, I like to take bubble baths, face masks, etc. That's great. And like certain times I need that. Other times I really need to listen to cheerful and joyous music. I think joy and expressing that and celebrating whatever it is for you is an important part of your self-care. And then things that can enhance my sleep. So like I like to use aromatherapy before bed, put some essential oils in my diffuser or put on a candle. So just kind of thinking about what are the pillars of self-care for you? Is it, your sleep? Are there things for your nutrition that you can do to support yourself? Are there things around like joy or music and creating art and things like that? Things that are soothing for your body, like a bath or massage, figuring out what a set of items that actually do serve you are, and then actually writing them out and having them someplace that you can look at easily when you're like, man, I'm not feeling great. What do I need? And you already have thought about these things that serve you and that you feel a beneficial effect from. So those are my two tips. And now we'll go into a grounding meditation. So wherever you are, find your seat. Allow your feet to settle onto the ground if possible, or into just a steady position. Allow your hips to settle into your seat or wherever you are. Perhaps letting your eyelids drift closed. Letting your shoulders release down your back. Inhale through your nose. Exhale through an open mouth. You'll notice like an ocean sound. Inhale through your nose. Exhale through an open mouth. A few more breaths like this. Inhale. And exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Continue breathing like that. And in a few breaths, we're going to do a square breath. So the only difference with that is that you hold your breath at the top and at the bottom of every inhale and exhale for a couple of seconds. So I'll do that with you. Next, inhale. 1, 2, 3. Hold. 1, 2, 3. Exhale. 1, 2, 3. Hold. 1, 2, 3. Inhale. 1, 2, 3. Hold. 1, 2, 3. Exhale. 1, 2, 3. And go ahead and breathe normally. And just notice how much space you can take up in your belly and your chest with air. And see how full and complete your exhales can be. And then just return to natural breath, perhaps placing one hand on heart, one hand on belly. Just feeling the rise and the fall of your belly. It's important to have deep belly breathing to relax your nervous system. That's actually what helps activate that relaxation. Oftentimes, if we hold it in our chest, it gets trapped and it doesn't actually circulate through our bodies. So really breathing into your belly and releasing it with your exhales. And then just notice what parts of your body are making contact with the ground or your seat. Noticing the temperature of the air around you and on your skin. Continuing to breathe. And then noticing where any tension may lie in your body. Perhaps it's in a certain muscle area. Perhaps you're doing something that we talked about, like clenching your jaw. Maybe your eyebrows are scrunched together, and just noticing where that tension is without changing it first. Maybe noticing certain parts of your body that you may feel almost like an energy, like you really want to move it. Inhale through your nose. Exhale through an open mouth. Another breath like that. Inhale. Exhale. Now we're going to tune into our internal experience. Perhaps noticing where your thoughts may be wandering to. Or maybe you'll notice a certain emotion rising up. Sometimes when we sit in stillness, that's when we get a chance to uncover what emotions were lying beneath the surface. Just noticing what's there for you. Maybe you'll see a certain color associated with it or a shape. Maybe you won't. And just observing your internal experience. And then finally, perhaps offering yourself whatever you need for the remainder of this moment. Perhaps it's patience, gentleness to yourself, kindness, or hope. Maybe it's strength or compassion. Just seeing what's there for you to offer yourself in this moment. Perhaps if you're offering yourself gentleness, taking a hand and placing it on your shoulder. Perhaps if it's strength, connecting your hands to a part of your body that reminds you of your strength. Just taking whatever you need in this moment. And we'll conclude with a couple of breaths together. Their eyes still closed. Inhale through the nose. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Next inhale, slowly drift your eyes open, not looking at anything in particular. Just letting your eyes drift around the room. Just taking it in, letting your eyes move from space to space. Just noticing any colors or light and shapes. Tuning in to the temperature in the room again. Returning to your breath. And that concludes our meditation.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Appreciate that. This is really it's a tense time. I won't even say the word stressful, but it is definitely a tense time.
Mm-hmm.
And so this was very needed and much appreciated. Thank you for coming in and sharing that with us.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me
Look forward to having you back again.
here. Yes, thank you. Have a good rest of your evening.
Thank you, Morgan. You too.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
They did it. Thank you, Morgan. They did officially call Virginia.
They did?
And guess for who?
Trump.
Would I be smiling? Joe Biden wins Virginia and Maryland. Trump wins West Virginia.
What?
Now, why one of the poorest states in the country is voting for the guy determined to make them more poor?
At West Virginia.
This is the Associated Press. Democrat Joe Biden has won Maryland. Biden defeated Republican President Donald Trump in the heavily Democratic state, which has 10 electoral votes. Democrats outnumbered Republicans 2-1 in Maryland. In 2016, blah, 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 blah. That's all about Maryland. Biden has also won the great state of Virginia. Now, we are a Commonwealth, let's be clear. And it's 13 electoral votes. Virginia has grown increasingly liberal over the last 4 years. As a result of the 2019 elections, Democrats now control every branch of government in the state. President Trump, on the other hand, has coasted to a victory in West Virginia, however, taking its 5 electoral votes.
Did they call? They didn't call Florida yet, did they?
No, I don't think they're going to be able to make Florida till the end. Let's take a look, though.
And Ohio, what we got going on in those two?
So let's see what we got here. See what I can get. Florida, 89% reporting has Trump up by 1.9%. North Carolina by 1.7%. North Carolina, Biden leading by 9. Ohio, Biden leads by 12. Trump is carrying Georgia by 13.
Let's give it up for Ohio, people. Woo-hoo!
Pennsylvania only has 3% in as Biden is leading, but the 3% is probably Philly or Pittsburgh getting it in early because they're getting it done. So that does not mean anything because we got a
PA. Let's do it.
I'm a Pennsylvanian. I am from PA, and I'm very proud of that. But that is going to be the state to watch because we got a mess up in PA.
And there are a lot of housewives groups out in PA.
Well, Michigan though, 2% in, Trump up by 12.
Where is that?
Michigan.
Michigan.
Michigan, really?
Michigan.
Yep, but only 2% in.
Okay, there's still hope for Michigan.
That's only 2%. We don't know which counties. Again, remember when Trump was carrying Virginia because they didn't count any of the big counties yet? Right now, based on what they've actually counted, Trump is still leading 58 to 39, but we know they've already called it because once they count Loudoun County in Fairfax, they didn't count us yet, but they've only counted 29% of the votes. Texas, 35% reporting, 52.3% for Joseph R. Biden Jr.
Let's go.
But they've only got 38. I mean, they've got 38 electoral votes, but they don't have enough. Only 35% are reporting. You'll find this shocking that Oklahoma has gone to Biden.
They would have to.
I'm not Biden to Trump. I mean, we all knew that was going. Kansas. No, wait a minute. 20% is in for Kansas, and Biden is in the league, but that's only 20%. It's probably the cities. Missouri going heavily to Trump. Florida, Donald Trump is leading, so.
Florida, my people.
Came back from Florida.
My people. A lot of y'all in this group in Florida. We got any Floridians watching right now? Give me some likes and hearts on this live here. We're rooting for you.
We're pulling. Come on, Florida. We're counting on you.
We're rooting for you.
Don't make this come down to the mess in Pennsylvania where they didn't have ballots in multiple places.
Y'all got to work this out because we have had postcard. Well, I don't think we did a postcard for Florida, but we
New Hampshire, yeah.
We did phone calls and we did text messaging for Florida. So we're looking for you guys to pull it out. You know we're behind you on this, Florida. Let's go.
3% in Michigan, very heavily for Trump. Indiana, very heavily for Trump, but that's at 37%.
Any update on the Senate?
Let's take a look. Hang on.
Biden, wait, what was that? They moved it too quick. Can't even see it.
Senate looks, it just dropped off. Hang on.
Biden wins Delaware, DC, Maryland, Maine, and Vermont, looks like. And he's ahead in Ohio.
Senate was looking like 42 to 35. Let me see if I can get this to load.
See, MSNBC was doing a really good job showing the Senate stuff. If I can get back on there again. I don't know if I can get back on there again.
Wow.
So the Senate looks like 42 to 34 with the Republicans, 24 remaining. So Oklahoma went to Jim Inhofe, however you say his name, no shocker. Texas going red, Tennessee, Kentucky, West Virginia. Virginia goes to Mark Warner.
Love you too, Ellie.
Yeah.
She loves this. She loves you, ladies.
Hi, Ellie.
New Hampshire to Janine Shaheen over. I went to graduate school in New Hampshire, so I'm very happy to see that. Massachusetts goes Dem. Rhode Island to Jack Reed. New Jersey.
New York numbers out yet? That's where I'm from.
New York does not have an election. Cory Booker heavily carrying New Jersey.
That's close enough.
Yeah. Illinois, Richard Durbin. So
coolness. Hey girl, hey, I see you, Ellie. What else we got? Mine won't come back up. I don't know, probably because I had the other one on. I have to log out again, which I think is ridiculous, but I can't be on both at the same time, I think. I think that's what it is.
Well, I need to hop off here. How long are we staying on? Should I come back
Oh,
after?
we're actually done. After the meditation, we were done.
Okay, because I'm gonna hop on. Then I'm gonna hop onto my other call. But I wish you ladies much love. I hope that by the morning, I think if we win, we should come on and all fire Donald together on behalf of the Housewives under our new name.
And bake him some cookies.
I don't know.
Bake him some cookies to go. That's gonna be the new shirt for y'all to wear.
Yeah.
So we're gonna get ready and do that. So again, everybody, we're getting ready to log off because the meditation's how I wanted to. Oh wait, Arkansas is too early to call.
Mhm.
What else? Oh no, don't tell me that, Ellie. 51 Biden, 42 Trump electoral votes.
In Florida, they've got 90% in, 50.5% to 48.4% favoring Trump.
Oh, Ellie said McConnell was reelected. Don't tell me that, Ellie. I liked you at first. No, I'm just
Georgia is going to Trump, it looks like, with 20% in, but I have to look at which counties. North Carolina is leaning heavily Biden with 62% in.
That's gonna be awesome.
This could come down to all eyes on Pennsylvania and Florida.
Let me ask you a question. Can you pull up Indiana? I want to see how Janine Lee Lakes is doing.
Let me get to the House.
Thank you.
Do you know her
Ellie,
what?
girl, you feel my pain?
Do we know what number she is? Because I can find her by number.
Hmm?
Do we know what number she is?
No. And
I
this
can.
Indiana. Oh, shoot. You mean what district she's in?
I can find out. Yeah. I can find out.
Can't remember. New Hampshire, we got Janine.
She is this. Yep, and she's been in there for a while. She is the sixth. She is the 6th district.
We got Cory Booker back.
Well, I'm not going to complain about that handsome man. Not that I'm objectifying him, but he's handsome.
Oklahoma went Republican. I'm trying to see what else is coming up. 51 Biden, 42 Trump electoral votes. Oh, y'all feel my pain. God, I didn't want McConnell. Oh.
Yeah, Indiana 6, Greg Pence 71.8%, Janine Lake 24.9.
Dang it.
33% reporting. But she said she thought it was going to take a third try, and you got to shift somehow. Think how long it took us to shift for Virginia Blue.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And she is going to be one of the ones. She said she was focusing on 2022, I think.
Yep.
So we got you, Janine Lee Lakes.
Yep, this is a great thing for your PAC that I think is just a brilliant idea, because that one vote in Congress for her counts just as much as Jennifer Wexton's.
Stay connected.
So I'm going to wish everybody a very good night. I hope that tomorrow when I wake up, we will all be walking on broken glass as we have a woman vice president who is our first Black woman vice president and our first Asian woman vice president, and that someday Mamala, because I like that her stepkids call her Mamala.
Yeah.
I love that and that we will have Joe Biden to restore the soul of our country.
Yep.
Well,
And
thank
to everybody watching, we just want to say thank you. Kim, you have any final closing remarks, sweetie?
No, I was going to thank you ladies for spending this time with me, because I'm telling you, my anxiety was on level 1000. And just knowing that we're in this together, all of us,
yeah,
helps, the feeling a little bit better.
Yeah.
I've been seeing all these things on Facebook, that just like, tomorrow we wake up and we will still blah, 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 blah. And my response to all of them is tomorrow we will wake up and we will still be fighting. What we're fighting will be different depending on who's president, but either way, tomorrow when I wake up, I'm still going to be fighting for vulnerable communities and for equity and to make the world better and safer and a better place for my children and everybody else's children too. I'm still going to be fighting to get everybody health care and for the idea that everybody gets to eat. I know that's crazy, but everybody should get an education and health care and to eat. So I'm just throwing them out there as radical, the crazy leftists with these ideas of food, and shelter, and healthcare. So that, as much as I see those things on Facebook where everybody's like, tomorrow we wake up and everything stays the same, that is the one thing that stays the same, whether we're holding Biden accountable or we're fighting a much heavier battle against Trump because he will feel like he has carte blanche if he's reelected.
Yeah. Well, on that note, we're going to check out, and I just want to thank everybody for hopping on, no matter how long you hopped on tonight. For every comment, for every thank you. There's a whole lot of thank yous that were given tonight to you ladies. So I just want you to know that people did appreciate us being on tonight. So thank you for taking time out of your schedules so that we can kind of heal together, I'd like to say. So thank you
to everybody who voted and worked at the polls and sent postcards and text banking and everything everybody did. I know everybody worked really, really, really hard.
Everybody worked really hard. And we thank you so much. Everybody that attended a postcard writing party, that when I put up a post, you guys was like, yeah, I can help. Even this weekend, you guys said that you would be able to help, and you did. Even as late as yesterday, you did. So thank you for every phone call. One of our members, I think her name is Deborah, said that she was carrying one of the voting machine things and it fell on her foot. And
oh no, I'm sorry, Deborah.
Yeah, and but she's back at it running the polls today. So shout out to all of you that worked polls, passed out a flyer, drove somebody, helped somebody fill out a mailer, explained it, got disrespected by a Trump supporter, whatever it was. Thank you, because you made a difference. And no matter what, we're going to go through, and whoever's in office, we are going to hold them accountable. All right. Have a great night.
Love you guys.
Love you too.
Guys.
Bye.